welcome back to my lure box. In today's video I'm going to show you a brand new lure that's been released from Shimano. This is the Strong Assassin. It's a 125 floating lure and there is so much to love about this thing. These are just hitting the stores right now in preparation for the upcoming jack and barra season, and boy, I'm excited to be fishing this thing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep the camera rolling over the next sort of 5 to 10 minutes. I'm going to take you in this creek and show you how I like to fish it and give you some tips on what you can be doing this season to get your catch rates up, hopefully convert a couple of mangrove jack. And look, it's probably a little bit early at the moment to be realistic in southeast Queensland. I'm down here on the Gold Coast chasing jacks at the moment, but the water temperature's still around like 18.5, 19 degrees. So when it gets to about 21, 22 degrees, you can start to really get excited for your jack season. But there's nothing wrong with coming out and throwing a lure just to get your eye in and your casting accuracy going. And that's what I like to do sort of middle of August, late August, is come out and just test the waters a little bit, test my arm and dial things in. So that's what this session's about. And boy, I'm excited because I think this lure this season is going to be fantastic. There's a whole host of reasons why. Let's get into the review and see if we can pull a fish. It might be a trevally or something up here, or an estuary cod that's here before the jacks are keen. You never know. Right, well, one of the things that's really important when you're chasing jacks, it's probably the most important thing, is your casting accuracy. And being able to land the lure right in against the snag is such a key factor. Now, this lure here, this Strong Assassin, you might be able to pick that up. Inside it, it's got a weight transfer system. So as the lure casts, it has a transferring weight that goes to the back of the lure that helps to shoot it in against the snag. So I'll try and show you what I mean. It's very easy to cast. It's 25 grams, so throwing it into the bank, it's really easy, and because it flies direct, you can get it right in hard against that snag. And then once you've got it down into that zone, you can watch it over the cover. Okay, it's a slow floating lure. So what I like to do is land it right in against the cover, into the shadows, and then just retrieve it back and watch it the whole time. And even at this time of year, it gets my nerves going because the flash that this thing throws out is just incredible. It's probably the most responsive bait that you're going to find that you can cast in and then twitch. And the reason for it is this new flash boost technology that Shimano's released in a whole range of their lures. Let me show you what it is. Have a look at that. Now the whole time that this lure is in the water, any little action on it is sending that front little mirror crazy, and it's shining off and throwing a flash through the water, and it's giving it a really crazy appearance in the water that just pulls fish in. Now the finish on these is just fantastic already, but it's got that transparent body that at the front, that flash just gets going on the inside. It sits on really delicate springs and it just keeps going. So one of the keys for chasing jacks is a stall, to leave the lure in there. And at a stall, you want the lure to be just slowly floating back out above the snag, which is what this lure's got. But to have an action where it's still moving and there's still things happening inside the body is really exciting. Could just be another trigger point for these jacks to come in, call them in, and get them really fired up to take a hit. I think the barra guys are going to love this as well. It's got a beautiful profile, just like a mullet. I've seen the eagles perched up here this morning watching bait come into this little creek, and that's what they're after. They're after a mullet profile, and the way that this sits in the water, just like a mullet, you can see the scale pattern on it. Perfect imitation of a mullet. It's got great hooks on it, nice strong hooks, really catchy actually. And I was out here throwing, before I came into this creek, I threw it a couple of times across the flats, and I actually pulled a flathead on the outside of its body. That's how catchy they are. So At 20 pound, which is what I'm running on my Curado, 20 pound braid, 20 pound leader, these hooks, you're not going to bend them out. They're just going to be perfect for mangrove jack fishing. So this is how I like to fish it. I'll toss it out right in hard against the snags, and then it's just twitches of your rod tip. And the responsiveness of that little bib on the front means that it just has a beautiful body roll. So that tiny little bib there, it pulls it down to about 0.8 of a metre on a cast, and it gives it this roll that just sends that flash out. If you've watched enough mullet in these creeks, as they spook along the banks, a lot of them tend to roll, and you'll see that flash. It's definitely a trigger for predatory fish to come in and inspect what's going on. And you're literally getting that every time you touch the rod tip with this. So that's the action. I'm throwing it out and kind of just stabbing at it and drawing the rod tip, and then pushing my rod tip back to allow it to move freely without any sort of line tension on it, and that gives it that kind of shudder with the flash boost that runs through the inside of the body. There's a host of ways that you can use this. You can draw it like a slash bait. You know, if you're chasing queenfish, trevally, things like that, like the northern species, where you're trying to fire them up as they're honing in on bait, you can definitely like draw the lure and slash it about like that. But it's just as effective, just little half turns of the rod tip even, and you'll see the flash in the water. It's absolutely fantastic. Makes me nervous out here fishing it to see it. I know that's what the fish are looking for in these creeks. Well, that's what it's trying to imitate. Well, it's a start, I suppose. This time of year, you know, I'll take that. I told you those hooks would catch you, eh? Even as a trolling lure, like the body roll on this for Barra, so the guys that troll for Barra up north are going to love this thing. It's got a beautiful body roll on it. Even casting off the rocks, like at 25 grams with that weight transfer system in it, you can just send this a mile. I was doing that on the flats this morning when I was just testing out how well it casts. Makes for really easy fishing. Like even in here, you can see my rod work isn't really heavy and arduous. I'm just literally just pendulum swinging it in, and it's just firing right in under the snags. Because of that weight back system in it, when it lands, it even backs its way further in under the cover. So if you're tossing in against trees and things like this, it still goes back another foot once it lands, which is just fantastic for getting in the face of the jacks and the barra. And this is really like a prime location, you know, those small creeks where you get that kind of shallow end point before it hits the banks and the bottom of the system, and you've often got like laid down timber, mangrove trees and things that are laid out at the metre and a half mark. Twitching one of these over the top of it, there's so many creeks like that up through the Cape. This thing is just fantastic for this style of fishing. One of the tips I've got for you is to run with a loop knot right at the front there, and that just frees the lure up. If you're running with clips and things or you're tying straight to it, it's going to limit what you get out of this lure. Having a loop knot that's tied right to the front of the lure allows it just to get that maximum body roll, and then you just want it, once you've got that and you've set up right, you want to leave it in there. Like leaving the lure in there, just being patient and slow with it, whether you're casting across the flats for giant flathead with it, or you're chasing a mangrove jack or a barra in the creeks with it, giving it the time in front of their face and just little twitches. It's so responsive, this lure, that little twitches and just stalls in front of the fish's face, that's what's going to get your bites. Alright folks, I hope you're getting excited for jack season. I certainly am. I'm out here already and it's still cold and blowing southerly, but that's it. Bring on some more jack fishing and maybe some barra trips this year. There it is, the Strong Assassin by Shimano.